Now, like right now. Like Moose. Oh.
Yay.
That's what you get for letting Thomas Franklin borrow your headset and stuff like that. Ooh. Boy, howdy. Well, that's fun. Anyway, views, opinions, not necessarily those, the SCV, GC, any division brigade, camps, other subsidiaries, strictly those of us expressing them. Now that we've got that out of the way, we can get started. Happy April the 14th, which of course means it is Confederate Heritage Month. And what a glorious month, a glorious time to be alive in Dixie. Hope everybody is out there doing something for your veterans, your local community, better veterans. Flag those graves, clean those graves, get out there. Remember to send us your pictures and your, if you have videos, that'd be cool. But send us your pictures to scvyouth@gmail.com so we can put them up on our Facebook feed, as well as Moose May can cover them on a Thursday night show of his choice. Really quickly, it's also Titanic Day. For those that did not know that the Titanic sunk in 1912 on this day. So, yeah. How you doing today, Moose?
I'm doing good, GCB. I'm ready for tax season to be over with. It's been an awful first experience for me.
Hey. Ben Franklin said there are only two things certain in life. That's death or taxes. Speaking of taxes, we had a video go out last week on our YouTube page. Make sure that you're following our YouTube, because a certain social media platform that we use is being a little bit kooky. So we only have a certain amount of video archive up. The rest of it is on YouTube. So make sure you're following us on YouTube to get that. And also, whenever we make a video, we will be posting it just to YouTube. So I hope y'all enjoyed that. We've got another one coming out this week about something similar. Actually close to the anniversary of the bisesquicentennial of the gunpowder plot. And it's not plot, excuse me, that was back in the old country. This was the gunpowder incident. Surprise, surprise. So y'all make sure y'all check those out, get those shared. We've got some other videos in the work. We're kind of changing things. I got one I'm working on right now. I'll go ahead and tell y'all. It is about a gentleman named really cool story. I gotta find it really quickly. Forest Dude, yes, just in case you're watching. You'll know what I'm talking about.
That's dangerous.
As a song we were listening to before the episode started.
What if I just started broken out singing it because it's stuck in my head?
That'll be our very last episode. Prentice Ingram. I'll be doing a video on Prentice Ingram pretty soon, because it'll highlight Beauvoir, and we'll talk about it post show on our on our Patreon. So y'all make sure to get on our Patreon for $10 a month. You can help support SCV Chat, keeping us on the air, especially now that I found a site that I can purchase stock video on, and it's $300 annually. So yeah. Anyway, but tonight we're gonna do something different. Normally I'm in here, talking to the chat and everything like that, and we will try to talk to the chat some, but this episode's more for our average membership is about 65 years of age or something like that. This episode's more for your grandkids, more for your kids. We're going to be serious, but we're not going to be too serious. This is more of a recruitment video, and trying to explain to the millennials. I'm a millennial, and Harrison, you're a
Gen Z.
Gen Zer. On why, first of all, why Confederate Heritage Month is important, but more importantly, why they should be proud to be Southern. Why they should be proud for the entire history of the South from 1607 until today. Talking about that a little bit or a lot of it for the entire episode. You got any announcements before we kick off, though, Moose?
Not really. Definitely go support that new video we had up, and definitely go check it out. The new video coming out later this week, Friday, and definitely go check out the Patreon. Check out Look Around the Confederation this Thursday, and I really don't think we have any other announcements. Go buy the Dead Gum Moose Hunt shirt.
Yeah. Thank you so much for plugging the shirt.
You're welcome. Also, just to keep in everybody's back of the mind is we will be approaching our 200th episode this season. So just make sure to be on the lookout for news on that. It will be a while. We're going to start planning it shortly, but it will be a huge episode.
In approximately 22 episodes.
Yeah.
So anyway, you ready to kick off?
Yeah, well, let's go.
You sure? Okay. So as we said, it is April, which means Confederate History and Heritage Month, and we're here to crank up the pride for all things Southern. And when I wrote that, it sounded a lot cooler in my head than it did coming out of my mouth. But we are very pumped up. Harrison and I, we are very proud to be Southern. We're very proud of our Confederate ancestry. There's nothing wrong with the region that we were born and raised in. There's nothing wrong at all. And, it's not just, battlefields and stuff like that. I mean, it's the soul of the United States of America from 1607 all the way to, today. The South is the backbone. It is the bedrock. Without the South, there would not be a United States. In fact, I can't remember who said it. I think it was Clyde Wilson said that there is no such thing as the Deep South. There's America in the Deep North, which is very, very appropriate. So what's this month what's it all about? Obviously, it's a time for us to honor our Confederate forebears for the years of struggle that they had during the war as well as during Reconstruction. And everything like that. But it's also a good time for us to sit back and reflect on all of our roots. As we've discussed on this show multiple times before, our worldview, at least the Southern worldview, was established about 400 years ago. The things that we believe and that we know are true, whether they're morals or whether they are how we treat people, how we act, our mannerisms, manners, language, speech patterns, everything like that was all established 400 years ago. So it's a celebration of our roots, because without the original founding of the South and the culture that made Dixie what it was and is today, we would not be there. There would not have been a struggle. So we're gonna talk about a little bit of everything. Dang nabbit. All right. So obviously, Harrison, you have anything you want to add in there? Because I really don't want to, be walking over your toes.
No, you go ahead, man. You go ahead. I'll jump in when I feel like I have something.
So again, it's a little bit of everything that we're gonna talk about. So obviously with Confederate history and heritage, and being SCV Chat, we've got to talk about the importance of what our ancestors did in 1861 to 1865. The fact that the war was a continuation of the American Revolution. And I think the American Revolution is a good jumping off point for us to talk about that and the South's impact on the Revolution. A couple of years ago, we did an entire series on the Southern influence on the Revolution, whether it was John Paul Jones, the father of the Continental Navy, which, of course, now is the modern American Navy, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, John Taylor of Caroline, so many other historical figures known and forgotten by history. It's important for us to remember them. because the same principles that motivated the Patriot to go off in 1776, or actually before that, is the same principles that his grandson, in some cases his great grandson, some cases his son, went off to fight for in the War for Southern Independence. That's why we call it the War for Southern Independence, because it was a continuation. Just like how in 1776, when a Virginian by the name of Richard Henry Lee, yes, related to Robert E. Lee, proposed the original separation or secession from Great Britain, that the colonies should and ought right to be free and equal states, capital S in states, is the same thing that later on, 7 years, that their descendants would fight for. And again, there would not be an America without Southern history. When you fast forward a couple years later, and you get to the War of 1812, when the British were still overstepping their bounds, when they were still trying to treat these United States as a punching bag, kidnapping our sailors and things of that nature. And we had the War of 1812. It was Southern heroes that fought that war. Especially, down here at the South, the very last battle was a Southern victory. You have Andy Jackson, you have the Kentucky Long Rifle, the Tennessee Volunteers, things of that, gentlemen of that nature. And then when we move, you look at American history and you move out west, it's the Southerners that go and settle the frontiers, well, even backtrack before that. After the Revolution, or even after the Proclamation and before the Proclamation of 1763, it was Daniel Boone and men like that went and settled at that point the West. And Southerners continue to move west, looking for more freedom and more land. Excuse me while I whip that in there. And continuing on, it was Lewis and Clark that went and explored the continent. That made it all the way across, sent by Southerner Thomas Jefferson and Lewis and Clark, both being from the South. You continue on, though. I digress back to my original point. In the 1830s, it's the Southerners in the vast majority that moved out to Texas to fight that. And when it came time for Texas to declare its independence from Mexico, it was Southerners that led the way. Sam Houston from Tennessee, William Barrett Travis from Alabama and South Carolina, respectively. First in South Carolina, then moved to Alabama, then over to Texas. Davy Crockett from Tennessee. The youngest man who died at the Alamo was a Mississippian, all of, I believe, 16 or 17 years of age. You had the New Orleans flag. In fact, the only flag that's documented surviving the Alamo that was there at the Alamo was a flag of the New Orleans Grays that's still, I believe, in Mexico City. Again, southern town, southern state. The Mexican-American War happens, and when it does, again, you have Jeff Davis and the Mississippi Rifles, Zachary Taylor. Most of the officers that would later go on to be Southern heroes in the war between the states, or the War for Southern Independence, fought in that war. Robert E. Lee, was a hero of that war because of the he was under Winfield Scott. I think Scott was also from Virginia. But Lee, traversed the glass, not glass, well, it was glass, but obsidian field outside of Mexico City, or maybe it was Chapultepec Castle, in the middle of a thunderstorm, only being able to be seen by the lightning where to move. You got Stonewall Jackson, who begins that war as a lieutenant, but when he gets out of the army, he was breveted to major. And several others. And then after the war between the states, you have, Southerners and descendants of Southerners continuing to move out west. And then we get into World War I, and, men like Alvin York, who go off and fight and, receive the Medal of Honor from Tennessee. Countless other, Southerners. He's just the one that's picking, my name is, or his name is sticking out. World War II, you've got Patton and Nathan Bedford Forrest III. I imagine if you think back in your family history, you've got a grandfather or great-grandfather from the South that went off to fight in World War II, and then continuing on to Korea, Vietnam. We've done episodes. Chesty Puller, cannot forget to mention Chesty. I think it was his father that served in Stonewall Jackson's Foot Cavalry. And several others. So, I mean, you look at the annals, what I'm getting at, though, is you look at the annals of American history, there would not be a United States of America. We would not have the shared history that we have if it were not for Southerners. Again, the idea of there is no deep South, only a deep North. Culturally, if you want to dive into it, we've talked about anything from and everything in past episodes, from food to music to that was a good one. What makes a hero to you? That was part of my notes. But again, heroes being Southern and things like that. But from food to music to writers, and again, Southerners have kept our voice alive, and Southerners have influenced dramatically the writing styles that we have today, especially the Southern Gothics. I mean, you look at Margaret Mitchell. Let me Google really quickly.
Googling Southern authors, you might take a minute.
No. What I'm Googling is how many worldwide copies Gone with the Wind has sold. And it's over 30 million copies worldwide. It was a bestseller from its original publication. And, the film adaptation, which is one of the best films ever out there, is or one of the best grossing films. Definitely one of the longest films. You've still not seen that, have you?
Gone with the Wind?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Figured. But still, I mean, it's a bestseller, and you can't talk about authors without also mentioning William Faulkner, Flannery O'Connor, Shelby Foote, which, he did both the narrative, he called it the Civil War narrative, which Ken Burns based his documentary off of, but he also wrote novels and short stories as well. I'm trying to think of other ones. Eudora Welty, Willie Morris. No, he made movies. I'm trying to think of the guy with six-toed cats down in Florida. Anybody? Hemingway. He lived in the South. So if you're into literature, if you're into reading, and you're into reading American classics, you cannot pick up an American classic or talk about an American classic without, talking about a Southern author in there. Southern music. I mean, where do we start? You can go anywhere and everywhere. We did an episode with Tommy Daniels, talking about that there would be no music in America without Southern influences or Southern music. And that goes from rock to blues to country to bluegrass, everywhere and anything in between. And talking about music, Carl and I were talking about this the other night, how back in the 80s and even into the 90s, the music scene, or at least with Southern rock, was dominated with the use of the Confederate flag. I mean, there's a video of Skinner. Let me see if I can pull that up.
Leonard Skinner. That's what came to my mind. I think there's a video of Chris Rock did it too. Hank Williams Jr.
Hank Jr. did. I'm pretty sure the Allman Brothers did. I mean, even Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I can't remember who was in. I can't remember who was in Manassas. But Stephen Stills, he started that. But it's named after the Battle of First Manassas and Second Manassas. You have great songs like "The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down," which was written by a Canadian and a Southerner. But I hope we won't get a copyright strike. But if we do, it'll just be what it'll be.
For those of you who are sitting down, especially you guys in front, we would just like to say that the Confederate Army has came to California. How you like that, huh? And I think the South's gonna rise again tonight, don't you?
And it seems to, every night.
How about standing up for Dixie one time? We love you too.
No matter what side of the Mason-Dixon line you live on, the Leonard Skinner Tribute Band takes you south.
And maybe this is a tribute band, but yeah, but still, I mean, that was not that many years ago. And back then it was cool to be Southern, but you know what? Even though that's what 20, 30, 40, probably 40, 50 years ago, and that was not the one I was looking for.
The funny thing, like you said, that it's not that too long ago. There was some of this cases where, like, I was able to go to events like that. Not, of course, Leonard Skinner, but I remember vividly going to Ole Miss, and even though they had banned sticks, people still had battle flags and the real Mississippi flag, and people would play Dixie. And that, of course, had a massive effect on me as a child. It was cool to be Southern, and everybody wanted to be Southern. If you went to Ole Miss, you became Southern immediately, and no one had a problem with it.
I mean, it's funny you mentioned that. I've got a friend. He recently passed away over the pond, but he was a reenactor over in England. And he and I talked about it, and he said, everybody wants to be Confederate over there, and that's true because they realized, just like how we know that the South, especially, our symbols were used as are a symbol of defiance against tyranny, of the fight for freedom as well as regional pride.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't. But again, Skinner, the Allman Brothers, Hank Jr., Hank Sr., Johnny Cash. I don't like to claim Merle Haggard. I don't like Merle Haggard, but my views and opinions. But I'll probably get something thrown at me. But so many others in the genre of rock and roll, Southern rock, country, blues, gospel. You pretty much name a music style, and you can trace its roots back to the South.
Oh, yeah.
And there wouldn't be anything, without the South, because we are, as a people, are storytellers. And I talked about it a little bit last week about the educational system in the South and how it started with the Virginia gentry and cavaliers, sending their sons to formal education, but the more Scotch Irish, Ulster Scots, whatever you want to call them, the borderers, as Hackett Fisher would call it, an Albion seed, they passed on the oral tradition, and all we did was take our oral traditions, our oral stories, and set them to music. And the same thing with our writing style, going back to literature. But you would not have that without the South. Let me see if I can find that other video. No, it's not going to let me pull it up. But again, we got that Southern food. Let's talk about that, which we could talk about forever. And this is definitely something that Moose can talk to about. But when you talk about Southern food, I mean, it's all home food. It's all the stuff that you think about going back to mama's house, grandma's house. You think back to your childhood. That it's all Southern dishes: fried chicken, fried fish, fried vegetables, fried squash, fried tomatoes, fried shrimp, everything fried.
Everything's fried, even Oreos.
Yeah. Or, grains, biscuits, just what you would consider, or what people call soul food. It's Southern food. It came from the South. Barbecue came from the South. And that's why, when you look at it, you look at the barbecue styles, they're all named after their Southern influences: Texas style, Carolina style, Kentucky style with their mutton. No offense, Kyle. But Memphis style, which I still think that somebody ought to propose a resolution at one of our meetings about what style is superior and watch the fireworks go off.
I would be behind that, honestly. I'll do it.
Don't. But and the thing about and even New Year's traditions, eating greens on New Year's Day, eating pork on New Year's Day, and eating black-eyed peas and cornbread, all that comes from, again, Southern traditions, especially after the war. So it's and it's at the heart, somewhat at the heart of where we are. They say quickest way to a man's heart is through the stomach. But it invokes memories and invokes thoughts and things like that of growing up, and at least for me, sitting around the table on Sunday night or Sunday, excuse me.
Bless you.
One more and I ain't gonna do it again. All right.
Bless you.
But it's a part of our identity because we're so close knit and family oriented down here. It's those meals at the dinner table, or meals with family, and meals with friends, breaking bread together. And it doesn't even matter. I mean, one of my favorite meals I've had in the past year was at a fast food joint in Jackson with Harrison and Forrest. And we just ragged on Harrison the entire time.
Yeah. Glad we're going back down this.
Yeah, and but that then also goes into our our sense of humor. Despite everything, we're still able to laugh and make jokes. Jerry Clower, Louis Grizzard, even Jeff Foxworthy, Ron White. The hundreds of Southern humorists that are out. Mark Twain, even though he he wrote it mostly, he did go on a speaking tour. But again, Samuel Clemens was from Missouri. He grew up in the antebellum South. He used that as a prose for his writing style, which again goes back to our folk ways of telling things. Our mannerisms and our manners. It's not. It's in today's age, we hear about how it's impolite to, especially up north. It's actually impolite, and people take offense to saying yes, ma'am, and yes, sir. That it's a It's a sign of weakness. Patrick Swayze, the late Patrick Swayze, in the DVD features of the North and the South, and Moose finally got to see that series.
Oh, it's great.
Praise the Lord.
I was saving that for a special occasion.
And thank God you got to it. God forbid you watched it before we went to South Carolina last year so you could understand half the jokes, but that's fine. You're going to be a good farmer.
Yeah, I want to say something.
Yeah, I know. But Patrick Swayze talked about when he first moved out to Hollywood, and people were like, "You can't call somebody sir. How dare you call somebody sir? You're not beneath him. He's your agent." He's like, "No, where I come from, it's a sign of respect, and it is a sign of respect. And really, it's a sign of strength with class." The fact that we have manners and mannerisms and we believe in preserving a more genteel style is right. And it's part of our hospitality, and you cannot talk about the South with us without talking about us being the more hospitable portion of this of the country. I mean, the Yankees talk about it all the time, coming down south and running into a stranger, and the stranger talking to him, greeting them first and foremost with, "Hey, how y'all doing?" And then actually talking to them and, greeting each other. And, they're taken aback because up north, the most that you get is a grunt and an evil sideways glare.
The funny thing is one of my friends, he works as a campaign manager, and he was like, "I just got done doing some work in DC, and when it was time to move back to Mississippi," he said he was thrown off by how everybody was like, "Hey, nice to see you." And he's like, "I've never met these people." And he's like, "I almost forgotten how to get used to it," because he was like, people want to stop and talk. And he's like, they're not like that in the North. They don't want to talk. They don't want to say hi. They don't hold the door open. They don't, even say, "Hey, good morning." He's like, I was so used to not talking to people in town on my making my way around that he had to actually get used to it again, because he had been there for like 3 or 4 months. And it really threw him off. And he's like, "I'm so happy to be back down south because everybody's just 10 times more nicer."
Yeah, no kidding. And part of our genteel society is our respect for women. I mean, everybody down here thinks that, or not down here, but up north, thinks that we're backwards and we don't respect our women. We expect our women to be barefoot, pregnant in the kitchen the entire time. And it's not that. I mean, the Southern matriarchy has been, an important part of the South. I mean, ever since its inception. And you cannot talk about it without talking about the famous women that held the South together at various points in the war effort. Whether it's, and I'm talking about any war effort, whether it's, Martha Washington, during the Revolution, or you get to the war between the states and the countless wives, mothers, sisters, aunts who sent their fathers off to war, not knowing when or if they'd ever return. And then, during the post-war era, or even still during the war era, women like Mary Chestnut, Belle Boyd, Rosa Neal Greenhouse, and the countless others who helped, our soldiers. I was actually in Vicksburg this past weekend. I was on a date, and let me go ahead and say this. You know how you can make sure you found the one? Take her to a battlefield as part of a date, especially if she'll listen to you go ahead and ramble on for the entirety of the tour. And then you go to the large Confederate cemetery, and she gets out and wants to get out and walk with you as you're talking about the importance of the graves. Anyway, we were at, yeah.
I hate you.
No, one day, Moose, you'll be something that somebody wants.
Yeah, I just got to be something someone wants, and apparently I'm not.
Yet.
There's improvement. There's character growth. This is an overarching season story.
Yeah, it's a multi-season story. This is for those that are just now tuning in. Moose's love life is the B-roll, or not the B-roll, but the B storyline. Ever since Shakespeare, every play or every TV show, I don't know if you notice it or not, has an A storyline and a B storyline. And the B storyline for SCV Chat is either ragging on Moose or Moose's love life.
It really is. All I say is that if your girlfriend's allergic to peanut butter, apparently you can't get her some Reese's cups. Oh no!
Yeah,
clip that out of context.
Yeah, make sure that goes with the gag rule.
Oh, I've already clipped
it. But yeah, no, women were smart, strong, and loyal then as they are now. But I digress to the entire point of bringing up that story. As we walked through the Confederate rest section, I found I've actually got a picture of her headstone. I took it because I thought it was interesting because I've only seen one other out there, and it's in Columbus. But it belongs to Mary Pullum, who was a nurse. And it is a veteran marker. Let me find. Let me see.
Please stand by.
Excuse me while I search the cemetery records. Represent, share screen, and Mary Pullum. But yeah. Y'all still see that?
Yeah.
I mean, so clearly a female nurse. Who was part of that backbone of taking care of the soldiers, there at Vicksburg. Of course, that's before the siege actually happened. She passed in early 1963, but there's no record of how she passed. I mean, she very well could have caught a disease from a soldier, taking care of them. But again, it's just how the women held our lives together. I think of my third great aunt who held her life together despite losing her husband outside of Richmond during Chickamauga, or excuse me, he passed during Cold Harbor. And like right after his passing, gave birth to his son. And how she was able to, continue to survive, after the war, everything like that. And, there are countless of other Southern heroines and definitely within your family tree, that are out there. I mean, I'm trying to think of some examples from World War II, but a great example for that here in Mississippi is Delo, Mississippi, the town that gave the most per capita of its male population. But the women still worked for the war effort, did everything they could, raising bonds, went through the hardships of the rationing, and things like that. And they did it with dignity and they did it with pride. Mm-hmm. And you cannot talk about the South without talking about our faith. The heart of the South is the Bible Belt. The Bible Belt is, who we are. We've always been a very strong Christian portion of the nation. Although, I say that, the South in leading up to the war was the most religiously diverse. We talk about Judah P. Benjamin, who was Jewish, member of the cabinet. His father helped start the Reformed congregation, one of the first Reformed congregations, I think the first Reformed congregation in the United States, in Charleston, South Carolina, and how Charleston had the largest Jewish population leading up to the war. Again, talking about the Titanic, Isidore and Ida Strauss, who perished on the ship. The elderly couple, if you see them in the movie Titanic, they're the ones laying in bed as the water begins rushing through the room. they Isidore served the Confederacy. Jewish couple again. It wasn't a requirement, but it was definitely, the predominant belief system of the era and our area, and it still is. Especially when you look at what happened to the church in the North, the founding of the North. It was all the Congregationalist, which gave way, for the most part, to the Unitarian and Universalist, which is just organized agnosticism. For lack of a better term, again, my views and opinions on that. But you can't, not talk about that. You cannot talk about the South without talking about our religion, our belief system. In the South, through all good times and bad times, we've held firm to our faith. Whether that's during the war, during Reconstruction, during the Depression. I remember September the 11th, 2001, after the attack on the Twin Towers in the Pentagon and the flight there in Pennsylvania, that horrid day. I remember immediately that night, after Mom got home, we went to First Baptist Brookhaven for a prayer vigil and prayer service for those that lost their lives. And again, that's 2001. Talking about our religious aspects, at least bringing it back home to a Mississippi point of view. We're the poorest state in the nation, but we also give to the highest amount of charity per capita, be that through the church or whatever. Because we are taught that taking care of our neighbors, taking care of our friends is something that is right, both in the eyes of the Lord as well as right for the progression of mankind. I was taking a drink so you could say something there, Moose.
Oh, well, I mean, just thinking about just how going back to kind of the kindness of the South with religion as well. I mean, you have churches that hold food drives. You have churches that, send out Christmas presents to kids that don't have them, or just go and visit the elderly in nursing homes. And I mean, you said it a couple episodes ago, and I can't even remember the context, but I think we hold the second largest denomination is Southern.
No, Southern Baptist Convention is still the largest. Yeah, I believe so.
It's either that or we're tied with the United Methodist.
No, they're shrinking.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying. I know at one point we were. But I mean, that obviously has a Southern influence. It has it even in the name still.
Right. Yeah. Keep my views and opinions on that for the post show.
I'll keep my views and opinions on that for the post show.
It's the largest Protestant denomination.
Okay. That's I must have gotten one of them flipped in.
Yeah. No, Protestant denominations count for about 48.5%. And it's the most common form of Christianity in the country. So yeah, I mean, of the Protestants, it's the largest. So
yeah. And I mean, you look across the world, I mean, most of I think the Southern Baptist Convention is like the most I'm going to forget the word.
Evangelical.
Thank you. Or I wouldn't be able to pronounce it. Group of people. I mean, most people, their viewpoint on Christianity is going to be tied to that.
Yeah. And that all comes back from our founding as well as the Great Awakening. And everything. I mean, and probably the most famous minister outside of the Jesus Christ and the apostles in the world was Billy Graham. I mean, everybody's heard of Billy Graham, and he was from North Carolina. So yeah, I mean, you can't talk about this. And somebody said, actually, he's standing on his box because he can comment on it.
So we can hear. So we can hear him in the back.
Yeah. Jabo said you can't talk. You talk about God all day and not mention, but you can't talk about the Confederate soldier and not mention God, and that's truth because the Great Awakenings that happened during the Army or in the Army, and that still pass on to this day. Yeah, and here's why this all matters. Here's why Confederate heritage matters. You know, we and why Southern why you as a Southerner should be proud of your region, should be proud of where you are, who you're from, who your people are, whether they came over in 1607, the early 1600s, the 1840s. Why you should be proud of your 1850s, why you should be proud of your Southern roots, and why you should be proud of the region that you call home. Because we've mentioned it, there would not be an American culture without us. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. It happens occasionally.
Oh, if it makes you feel better, like I don't know why audio on this video started playing, but like audio of you just started playing in my ear from the beginning of the episode.
Oh, that's great. It's all Jason's fault.
It's all Jason's fault. We were going so well. So if anybody's having an audio problem, please let me know real quick.
Yeah. But again, it's important for us to remember, especially us millennials or you Gen Zers. I'm surprised you didn't roll your eyes at that, Moose.
I don't like the term Gen Zer. Just Gen Z it. It's better than the other name they've come up for us. I don't know if any generation has had such crappy names.
Anyway, but it's important for us because we're seeing this new age eradication of American traditionalism or Southern traditionalism more than that, because if the South gives way, if the South gives up to what we hold and what we know to be correct, to be true, and to be sacred, then the rest of the ideals of 1776 are gone as well. Whether that's freedom or even the 1780s, whenever the Constitution was ratified, freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, the right of pretty much everything in the Bill of Rights. Will soon go by the wayside if we're able to give free or not give free, but give up. If we give it up, anything up, that's what we're going to see, and with that will be the downfall of Western civilization. Again, my views, my opinions.
You going real deep, and I'm just about to touch on a completely surface level. But I will say, I don't think a lot of people realize that what has made America America. Oh, okay. Well, this is just phenomenal.
I have to get a bottle of water.
Okay, great. Thanks, man. It can be directly tied to the Southern culture's influence on America. And you can look at a lot of the bad qualities America has had, and you can tie it to the Northern culture, my views and opinions. But I don't think people understand that in trying to destroy Southern culture, because they're all gun-ho, that you're actually destroying what has made this country so special. And we've talked about it a lot tonight. America has heavily influenced, or the South has heavily influenced what we have become as a country. And you can never deny that. And in destroying that, they are trying to undo all of the good that the South has put into this country.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a there's a lot to it. By them destroying that, then they can come through and they can have it to where, I don't know, men can, use women's bathrooms. My views, opinions.
Just off of the top of my head.
Yeah, as one thing. Again, my views, my opinions. But they can go through and allow that. They can allow for, without the morality of the South and of the Bible Belt and believing what we believe, then just going on to that, then it's okay to, murder an unborn child in the womb. If you undo that, then or undo, you take away our morality out of it, then boof, there you go. You take out, the Southern influence into music. There is no music, no matter what it is. Food, same thing. Besides hamburgers, that was German. Forgot where I was going with that. Actually, no, I remember. But if you remove the South out of the equation completely, you begin seeing the ideals of certain places on the Pacific coast or certain places in the Northeast. And that's not what and it's a slippery slope till finally we get to where Europe is. To where over in the UK you can be fined for hate speech, and which if you go by the definition that is predominantly used on the or not definition, but some examples rather. If you have a person who was biologically born one gender and then decided to change it to something else, and you call them the wrong pronoun, it can get you fined for that.
Yeah.
So again, and Mr. Johnson, makes good points that the Dobbs decision of overturning Roe v. Wade was based on states' rights. And in part, it was. Letting the states decide, their positions on that. But again, you without the South there, though, then it would be one centralized oligarchical power overbearing, which it's mighty close to it. But my views and opinions. God, this is a episode. Yeah, let's just go ahead and throw out a.
Yeah, just put the disclaimer on the scroll across the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, put it on.
It's just for safety reasons. We're going to just put this here.
Yeah, but where would we be without the I'm trying to read that, but where would the moral compass of America be pointed without the Southern and religious revival that happened during the war? Straight to hell. straight to hell without it.
I mean,
my views, my opinions.
Because I mean, you kind of look at our projection, and again, I'm not saying that the South is full of saints and we didn't do anything wrong in the history of the world, but I think if you stack us up against our northern counterparts on the more positive influence or negative influence of America, I think we're kind of coming out on the good side.
Oh yeah, but I mean, and that's it. And there's a difference between remembering history and rewriting history, and that's what we're seeing happen, at least from some folks, is a revision or rewrite of history, so that it's easier to destroy a people. Excuse me. It's easier to keep your boot on a conquered people. But that being not going there. I'll be getting on the soapbox, and I'll be standing taller than Jason already is on his box, and
it would just get confusing at that point.
Yeah, but it's easier. It's easier for those people, as Marsh Robert would have called them, or did call them, to vilify us and demonize us and scrutinize us and just completely any otherizing you want to do. in order to beat us down, the modern South, the descendants of those men, the patriots of 1776 and 1861, the descendants of men who would not be ruled, the descendants of men who stood up and fought for something and were willing to fight, bleed, die, give up their life, their home, their treasure, everything about that. It's easier for them to destroy and to rewrite our history, to completely destroy us, for us to be able to say that no, these men, whether 1776 or 1861, are not worthy of being remembered, instead of allowing us to continue to stand. Because once they do that, once we get out of their way, once they reconquer us the same way that they did this time without bullets and burning the South, but instead burning our books, burning our history, and destroying our ancestry, doing it that way, same thing. But accomplishing the same goals, the easier it is for them to come through and completely redo these United States of America into their perverted, sick, twisted idea, which is a lot like socialist Europe. That's why that's why it's important for us to stand up. That's why it's important for us to stand tall, and that's why it's important for this generation, especially the generation. I mean, my generation is pretty moderate, leaning left. But Moose, your generation, and even the generation beneath you, is more and more conservative in growth, and that's what does give me hope about the future of the South. You look at Trump's last election, love him or hate him. Not saying anything about his politics and policies, but I will say you look at the youth vote and how it turned out in comparison to previous elections.
Well, I think the reason Generation Z and Generation Alpha is what they've been called are going more to the right, more conservative, more proud to be from America is because, and no offense, Connor, your generation ran so far and quickly to the left. It was almost a whiplash effect. You have two generations being like, all we want to be is left alone. Imagine that concept. And what if I told you that concept is a Southern concept?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Davis said it. We got it on a T-shirt on our bonfire.
Yeah, go check that
SCV Chat
store out.
SCVchat.org. Go under the support us, and you can find the T-shirt there. But no, you're right. I mean, that's why I call myself an unreconstructed millennial. I don't care what people think about me. I move on with life. You can take your opinion and $3 and go get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Actually, you can't even do that anymore.
No, you're really
but you can go and do that, and I will care just as much. But it's that's the problem with my generation. But the younger generation, even then, there are people in my generation that are waking up, smelling the coffee, realizing that the ideas that they grew up with are not necessarily the wrong ideas. And if they were lied to about X, Y, and Z, what else were they lied to? And they're starting to especially as we're getting older.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm closer to my 40s than I am to 21.
Which is
a depressing thought for me. But
don't bring me into this.
I'm not. But and that's generally what happened is, we see guys who are getting older and starting families of their own start looking at where their families came from and things like that. So we've got hope on that front. We got hope on the younger front. But this episode, like we said, is for those 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, to remind them that the South is nothing to be ashamed of. It's cool to be Southern. It's cool that because you come from a region that is confident, that is creative, that is proud, that is real. You come from a place that leads the world in music, in family, in food, in culture, and in hospitality. A unique place that you have something unique to where you come from, who you come from. And you can change to try to fit into the world narrative, but that's the thing at the South, you don't have to change because you're already from here. You're already something special. You mean you're already
something someone wants.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know, just you think about it. Think about everything that we've said tonight. You know, look into it. Look into your own history. Look into your own you know, your own heritage and where you come from, and think about it. Think about, you know, I was telling this to the girlfriend in Vicksburg as we're looking across the different sections of Soldiers Rest, and we're looking at guys from Virginia, guys from South Carolina, guys from North Carolina, guys from Maryland, guys from Alabama, Texas, Tennessee, Louisiana, Mississippi, obviously, Missouri, Kentucky. Yeah, it's 11. Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, left them out. But pretty much every southern state was represented there. Why were those guys there? That's the question. That's a question you need to ask yourself, and you need to think about why would somebody go off thousands of miles away from their homes to die, to put up with a 47-day siege, being shelled at, your water supply cut off, your food supply cut off, to where you're forced to eat rats and maybe camels if you're right there, or camel if you're right there beside the 43rd Mississippi Infantry. Again, your water supply completely cut off because the federal army, you know, I don't know, poisoned the streams coming in and tried to dam up those that they couldn't poison. 47 days in the hot Mississippi heat under constant bombardment. Why would they do that unless they thought they were fighting for something that was bigger than themselves? If it wasn't for the fact that they thought that they were the continuation of the ideas of 1776. And think about the Southerners from 1776, men like Jefferson, Patrick Henry, Thomas Paine, even though he was technically from England, Richard Henry Lee, George Washington, Light Horse Harry Lee, John Taylor of Caroline, the men who shaped the Constitution. Those first, what was it, 8 out of 9 American presidents, first American, or 8 out of the first, yeah, I think it was 8 out of the first 9 were Southerners. Think about the countless other generations of Southerners that have come from between 1607 and today. If they weren't a continuation of those beliefs, then why even go risk life and limb for that unless it's for something greater?
It's a question that might make a couple people think. Hello.
Yeah, stop that. We are not doing ASMR.
Welcome to Chat ASMR.
Nope, cut that out quick, fast, in a hurry. I will jump off the show and it'll just be you for the next 15 minutes.
15 minutes of just me whispering into the mic. Could you imagine what that would do to our viewership?
Yeah, it would absolutely kill it. So again, we're about to go ahead and wrap this one up. Oh, we didn't even talk about sports.
Oh, gosh. That's like another 30, 40 minutes to this.
Yeah, let's jump into sports for a sec. I mean, you know, baseball. Dizzy Dean can't. Yeah, that's you know, football. I mean, that's what's SEC. Besides this last year, for some reason, you know, dominates at it. Golf. I mean, heck, golf. We just ended Masters weekend, which is, you know, has been all over my Facebook feed, all over my TikTok feed, all over my Instagram feed. You know, you've got people that are emulating pimento and cheese sandwiches, again, Southern thing. You know, all up the north because the Masters was this past weekend. I mean, NASCAR, even though NASCAR has gone woke with banning the battle flag, and shame on them for doing that, because it was a Southern, it was invented in the South. You know, horse racing, my favorite sport, boxing. I mean, John L. Sullivan had his last bare knuckle boxing match in I think it was in Mississippi City. You know, it's just Again, that'd be a 30-minute long conversation.
I think we could add basketball to that. The founder was from Canada, but it was started at the University of Kentucky.
Hey, Lloyd, I know that Dizzy Dean was of Confederate ancestry. Weirdly enough, somehow I can't remember, but Dizzy Dean, being from Bond, Mississippi, my hometown, actually, it was the hometown of my great-grandfather. He was somehow married into my daddy's side of the family. So yeah, I mean the soul, the South. Blah, blah, blah. Bubba said it right.
The South is the soul of America, and that's 100% correct.
Yeah. And that's our thing. That's why we did this episode, because, and it wasn't our best because we kind of pulled the rabbit out of the hat. And we're going off of some notes.
Yeah, but, pro wrestling is a Southern sport, and I'll die by that stance. That's my heel this episode.
Okay, that's fine. Stone Cold Steve Austin, I'll give you that, and
Ric Flair, Fabulous Freebirds, WCW.
Yeah, and evidently The Rock, Dwayne Johnson somewhere. That's an inside joke. Don't come at us in the comments.
Yes, it is, Andrew. It's the heel I'm dying on this episode. Even though basketball is my favorite sport, which, fun fact, if you ever want to feel better at life, the man who created basketball had a losing coaching record. He invented it and still wasn't something someone wanted.
Or his team wasn't.
Anyway. His team wasn't something he wanted.
Yeah, no. Anyway, thank you, R.S. Jason Boshears, for that quote.
That's going on a T-shirt right away.
But again, it's okay to be Southern. It's okay to be proud to be Southern. Mm-hmm. And if you're proud to be Southern, then be proud to be a Confederate too. Because what influenced us influenced them, and their influence is still felt today. Mm-hmm. So,
I don't know if there's a better way to end it.
Hey, David, he already has Southern ancestry. He's a member. He's camp commander of the Samuel H. Poe Camp 255 in Waynesboro, Mississippi. And he's soon to be commander of the Mississippi Division if nobody runs against him.
They only have a couple other more days to announce.
Yeah, but if you're looking for the Confederate ancestry, the greatest basketball coach in the history of the sport, it's Forrest S. Dawes.
Yeah,
Pat's on.
And if you're looking for the greatest baseball player to ever live, he is the executive director of the SCV. He's a member.
Yeah, I need to call him after the show.
I
tried calling Jason Boshears twice last week, but he didn't answer.
He doesn't answer my texts anymore either.
No, this wasn't a text. This was a phone call. I had to ask him something important, but I guess we'll never. So anyway, we hope y'all enjoy this. Please share this out, especially if you have grandsons that are in their 20s and 30s. Sit down with them, let them watch this. If you have friends that are in your 40s, share it out. Let's get it out there. I mean, there's a lot to love about our fair Dixieland. A lot that the South has given us. And it's time that we give something to her. The best way to do that, of course, is to join the SCV. It's one of the best things you can do. Best way to honor your ancestors is to do that. Because what made them and made us is the same thing. And they made us. No, I didn't leave a voicemail because I expect you to answer the phone. Anyway, before we get into an argument, Moose, you have the video for this month uploaded?
Yep.
All right, so, we're gonna leave you with that call to action to go talk to a younger member of your Masonic Lodge, go talk to a younger member of your church, go talk to a younger member of your family, and try to talk about, show them this episode, try to boost up some Southern pride in them, so that they can get feel right about that and feel some good Confederate pride this April. Get them joined up. Let's lower that age nationally.
I have something I have to say before we end the show.
Okay.
I didn't text Jason. I just wanted to mess with Jason.
Yeah, well, I did call him. I'm not leaving a voicemail, though.
Hey,
join our Patreon for the post show where we're really going to get into some views and opinions tonight.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, get ready. But before we get started on this video, because we're probably going to go straight from this to the outro, thank you to our Patreon members for supporting us, and your names will be on the end credits. So I guess
remember to tune in tomorrow night for a look around Florida with Sean McFall. Tune in Thursday for Moose's look around the Confederation. Tune in Friday to the Douglas Southall Freeman group. I'm sure that David's going to do something good with that. And then, of course, Michael C. Hardy's chat. I mean, you can on Sunday nights. So other than Wednesday and Saturday nights and Friday nights, you got good Southern programming here on Facebook and hopefully soon on YouTube for those other shows. And we can. Oh, and speaking of people who just sent me, guess who just sent me a TikTok?
Who just sent you a TikTok?
Adam Southern. So. But yeah, so you can get one stop, or I say one stop, but definitely social media. You can get information. You can get the history, the heritage, and stuff that you need to be able to defend our ancestors, defend our Southland in this modern war of cultural dominance that's being fought.
And are you done?
Oh, no Fumarin in the elevator. Bye.